I was singing to a crowd of 80 when a bullet went through my head. Blood sprayed on the microphone. The crowd thought I was dead.
It was a Telefunken U-47 made in West Berlin.
I stumbled through the fog machines, dripping blood on a Fender amp. Fragments of my skull were sprayed on the guitar stand. A screaming fan in the box seats, talking on a cellular phone.
All right, this evening we're here with David Hall. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And I was talking to Dave not too long ago, and you brought up an interesting, I don't know if we call it a fact. It's an interesting phenomenon, I guess, because I've heard of it before also, and that is the topic of it raining frogs.
Right.
I've heard of it before, but you say you've actually seen it rain frogs.
Yes, I have. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's when I was a kid, and we lived in a big old tobacco farm in Franklin County, Virginia. And when I was a little kid, and I remember it come up a big rain, and it rained, and it just kept raining. We had a good-sized creek that went inside the old farmhouse where we lived. And I remember my mom screaming, and she run out the door, run out on the porch. We had big porches all the way around the house, a big old farmhouse, and she was running out when she was screaming. And when we went out when we was kids, and it was just like thousands and thousands of frogs, probably about this big around, and they were falling out of the sky everywhere. And we had a lot of acreage around the house. You know, there was some woods, but it was a tobacco farm, and you just, as far as everywhere you could see it raining frogs. They would come down and hit the ground and bounce back up. It was raining so hard, and it was pretty scary. And but I remember the day after it quit raining, I remember I was outside playing. We had big mud puddles, and me and my sisters, we liked to play in the mud puddles. And I'd seen all these frogs where they had been. My dad, when he had come home from work, he'd come down the driveway in the truck, and I could see where they was all squashed. You know, and I remember seeing this real big one. It was real big, and it was like it was painted right on the ground, where it smushed completely flat. But it was pretty cool. But it was just thousands and thousands of them just raining.
Well, welcome once again. Here we are with another Halloween show a year later, and there on that segment that we just did, you saw David Hall discussing the phenomenon of it raining frogs. And this wasn't planned, but when I had our expert on this evening, then here it is pouring down rain. We haven't seen any frogs yet, but that was David Hall talking about raining frogs. I'm sure some of you have heard of that phenomenon before. If you pick up a book on the paranormal or something, there is usually a section on it. I think it's called Mysterious Rains. And raining frogs could be one of those things. Well, ladies and gentlemen, last year we had on our show expert in the paranormal, Nelson Oliver. A lot has changed in a year, but one thing that hasn't changed is strange goings-ons. They're still happening, and if there is anything strange going on, my little buddy here has an answer for it. And so let me introduce Nelson Oliver. Raining frogs, Nelson. You just you took a look at the segment. David Hall has seen it raining frogs on more than one occasion. What is that? Tell me about raining frogs.
Raining frogs is the phenomenon that people claim that when it rains like this, frogs, fish, or chains, or small midgets fall from the sky, and they cover the roads and houses. That's what the phenomenon of raining frogs is.
And So does it happen, or do you think frogs come?
I lump raining frogs in the same skeptical basket with UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, Charles Cullen's career. I'm real skeptical about those things. I try to keep them all in the same basket.
I got you. Now, okay, let's get down to brass tacks here. David has seen it firsthand as a kid, as a teenager, at his place, growing up in the country. He's seen frogs coming out of the sky.
Okay.
His mother saw it, and moms don't lie, as we know. So what are you saying? David did not see frogs? I don't think David's lying. I think he saw frogs. It's in books on. If you go to Barnes and Noble and pick up a book on the paranormal, it will have a chapter on raining frogs.
Yeah, a book about the paranormal. Of course it would. I do believe he saw frogs. I do believe he saw frogs on the ground. I do not believe he probably saw frogs raining, but I think he saw something, and he just has a little bit of misinformation about what he saw. Of course, when you tell a story over and over again, raining frogs. See, I have notes right here. Look at that. I did a little research, Charles.
Okay.
I did a little research just to make sure I was correct on this. Raining frogs has, at least for 200 years, been written in newspapers and books. The problem is that the stories have been retold over and over again by news reporters and people that write about the paranormal. Great example, fish fell from the sky, so the newspapers claim, in Singapore in 1861. Very famously, people in southern Greece woke up to a shower of frogs in 1981, and in 1901 in South Carolina, during a rainstorm, catfish were found in the middle of the street and even swimming in between cotton fields. So that's the stories. But I don't think they're actually coming from the sky. I think you have to ask the question, were they on the ground first? Because...
Okay, now one thing in there, and that was one of the reasons after our conversation at dinner that time, and that's one reason I wanted to interview you about that, is because I kept thinking about it, and I was like, the only story that I could come up with is one time I was out, it was when we were shooting a modern day Western in 97. We were out as a couple of buddies, and we were riding on some backcountry roads, and a big thunderstorm came, and frogs were everywhere, and the rain was hitting the road, and the rain was bouncing up, and at the same time the frogs were jumping. I'm like, I wonder if that's what people are talking about, but no. But I didn't see them falling from the sky. And then I picked up a book on phenomenons, stuff like that, and sure enough, there was a chapter in there called Mysterious Rains, and so it showed people holding frogs, small crabs that had fallen from the sky. So I'm like, okay, well, he's on to something, and I'd heard of it before also. So the frogs were actually coming out of the sky.
Right.
Like you could hold your hands out and they were dropping from the sky.
On the front porch and you see them. You just see them falling out of the sky.
I remember riding through the countryside and it be raining and storming, and you would see the rain hitting the ground and frogs jumping at the same time.
Right,
and so it gives the illusion that it's raining frogs. But when I read in that book that I picked up at Barnes and Noble, it said people actually see them falling from the sky. And David said for miles out through the field, frogs were coming straight out of the sky.
Right. Was it raining that day?
Well, I guess the frogs were coming down with the rain. What are you getting at?
No, I'm just asking because that's an important question. If it was raining. Or did they just fall out of the sky on a clear blue day?
No, I think it was raining, and along with the rain, the frogs were coming out of the sky.
Okay, good. Then we might be able to get somewhere with that.